Why does trauma therapy hurt so much? Like it should be helping. Why is it hard in the process? I'm gonna tell you. As a trauma therapist, I like to prepare people for trauma therapy by telling them this story. I want you to imagine with me that there's a little kid and he's riding his bike. His mom's over there at the side of the street. Have fun, honey. Be safe. I'll see you soon. He's like, bye, mom. See you later. He takes off and he just keeps going down with his bike down the street into some turns, maybe into some woods, and he's having a blast. But mom is out of the picture. She's way back there. When all of a sudden he falls. And when he falls hard. It was not an expected fall. He gets scuffed up everywhere, but he really particularly hurts his knee. And the knee is pretty bad. He fell on some rocks, so there is a pretty bad gash, scrapes on the rest of it. And because he fell in this wooded area, there's already some dirt, debris, and rocks already in the wound. Because he's alone, he does not have the resources of his mom or a first aid kit or anything else to help heal the wound and bandage it up in the meantime. So he's calling out for help, mom, 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 and it takes some time, but she eventually gets to him. Now, in that time, he did not receive an ounce of help. He was left on his own to defend himself, to fend for himself, and granted that he was still close to home, but he felt really alone and scared and wondering what was going to happen next. Eventually, mom comes and picks him up, scoops him back up, bring him back to the house, and cleans him off as best as she can. But she doesn't see how deep the wound actually is in the knee. She doesn't see that there are still rocks and scrapes and dirt all in the wound. So over time, what the body naturally does is it heals itself, right? So the wound gets scarred over. It goes through the scarring process, skin kind of goes over it. But what we don't know is that the skin covers the wound and traps the rocks, dirts, and debris in there. Over time, the little kid starts just to live his life. He's moving, he's grooving, he's fine in the long run. He can handle it all until his knee starts to hurt a little bit. Can't move it as much. Can't run, jump, and play as much as he used to. And he goes, Mom, there's something wrong with my knee. Not even connecting the fall to this incident. She goes, okay, let's see the doctor. Let's see what they have to say. So the doctor looks at his knee and she says, man, this is a pretty deep wound. Did you even know that you had this? He says, nope, I had no idea this was the root cause of it all. She goes, yeah, it is. And in order for us to fully heal the knee, we have to do surgery and get all the gunk, the dirt, and the rocks out from the original wound. So they eventually move forward with the surgery, and the surgery is hard. It's a hard surgery. They got to reopen a wound. Surgery is an intensive process. They have to get through to the original wound, get into that original gash, dig up everything, and they do. It's a successful surgery. But when you're digging things up, it can cause more hurt. It can cause more pain. So he is in pain when he wakes up. He needs some medicine to support the pain, and the recovery is a long one. He can't move his knee at first. He can't run, skip, and jump and do all the things he loves to do because he's in recovery. And the recovery hurts. He even wonders, was this worth it? Because I was fine. I was functioning fine, but it wasn't at my full capacity before. Is this surgery worth it? Eventually, over time, the wound heals, the surgery clears, and everything goes as expected. And after he's fully healed from the surgery, he can run, jump, skip, kick a ball, ride his bike, do all the things a little boy can do. And he says the surgery was worth it, no matter how hard it was. The same thing is true in trauma therapy. When you first have that hard and scary thing happen to you, you don't have the resources to handle it yourself. You might feel like this little kid stranded in the middle of the woods, calling out for help and no one's coming your way. You're having to do it all on your own. Or you may have had someone to help support you through it, like this mom, but she didn't see the depth of the issue. She didn't have the resources to be able to support you, including the first aid kit and other things. Despite doing both of your best work, it just wasn't enough, and that's okay. It's no one's fault. You just simply did not have the resources you needed to get through it in that moment in the way that would have prevented the wound, and that's okay. Then life goes on and you continue on as normal until something reminds you that you are not functioning as well as you need to be, as well as you used to be. And that's when the trauma starts to come up again. We start to have reminders, start to have impaired functioning. And that's when we realize we need to seek help. That's where therapy comes in. And when we're doing the therapy work, we start to realize, oof, we have to go back and address that original wound. So we get in there. We get the gunk out, but it is hard work to get the gunk out. It is almost as hard as a surgery. And surgery is hard when you're doing trauma work. That's why it hurts afterwards. That's why it's painful. And that's why you might feel worse before you get better, because the recovery, even in itself, is hard. But man, once you complete the treatment, complete the surgery, complete the recovery from trauma work, it is worth it. You start to be your old self again. You start to do things you didn't even realize you couldn't do before. You start to be able to handle so much more than you could ever realize and become closer to who you want to be. So when you're wondering why trauma work hurts, that's why. Because you gotta scrape out that original wound. But if you're wondering if the hardness of the work is worth it, Heck yeah, it is. You are worth investing in yourself. You are worth doing the hard work to get to the other side. And you will, my dear, you will find healing.